All right, guys, got an update on Elon Musk going ham on Twitter the other day and banning like a zillion people. So if you haven't watched the first video that we did on this, definitely check that out. But we have some updates for you. So first of all, let's get to what his excuse is. He came out last night after we had recorded our video and basically said, like, here's why I did it. And the short answer is just doxing. He claims this is doxing. I hope you like our kitty, by the way.
This is Salem.
Salem. Little cutie pie Salem. So he claims it's doxing. Now, after he said that, he went into Twitter Spaces, and there were a bunch of journalists in there, and they asked him some tough questions. And he basically just kept reiterating, like, this is doxing. And then when they kept pressing him on it, because obviously in their view, and I think it's fair to say it's not doxing, I'll get to why in a second, but then he sort of rage quit. So he left the room, and then after he left the room, Spaces just stopped working. So it's like, not only did he leave the room, he like nuked all of Spaces.
The whole program altogether.
So I don't know, is he still...
He claimed that, like...
Is it still down or no?
I don't know, okay. But he claimed, like, oh, there was some, like, legacy bug that we just had to finish.
Yeah,
but that's... happened to be right now that they just, okay,
I'm not buying that for a second. So the other thing he did is he did a poll. And his original poll had 4 options, like, and he worded it in a way that was biased, like, the people who are, you know, doxing my exact location, should they be allowed back on?
Right.
And there were like 4 options. Now, even with the 4 options, the thing that got the most votes was, yes, let them back on and let them back on right now. Yeah. But then he looked at that result, he didn't like it. It was only like a 30-minute poll, that he did. He didn't like it. So he does another poll, and he ups the wording even more. What was the wording for the second one? It was like, my assassination coordinates were released. Should I allow these people on?
Assassination coordinates or whatever, yeah. Something over the top.
And it was yes and no. Like, yes, I should let them back on. Or was it yes or, I think it was 7-day suspension.
Should I let them back on now or 7-day suspension?
Right, okay. So, and people, it was 59% last I checked that said, let him back on right now. Let them back on right now. Oh God, we got another.
No, we got Phoebe here.
Oh no, we got another dog that's fucking.
This could be a disaster.
Okay, yeah, this is. We're gonna have like a giraffe walk in next. A rhino walks in the background. There's random animals everywhere.
Well, the cat and the dog kind of wage a little war against each other.
Yeah,
too,
they do.
So that could always happen at any
If
moment.
we hear hissing,
anyway,
you guys know what's going on. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so it was like 58 or 59%, something like that, that said, let him back on and let him back on right now. So clearly you could see he's like losing the PR battle. Even a lot of his own people are like, no, I'm not buying your argument. Barry Weiss, who did one of the Twitter files, came out and was like, not buying it. Ben Shapiro came out originally and was like, I'm not buying this. Now, so now let's get to the substance of it. Is it doxing? That's the question. So my definition of doxing, and I'm curious if you agree, is so purposefully releasing private information with the intent of harming.
I think that's fair.
Okay, now I should state for the record here that doxing is actually not illegal.
Right.
It's not, you know.
And Elon had originally said any speech that was legal would be
allowed on Twitter. Right, so by his own standard, he's
not
sort
to
of
mention,
failing.
he, of course, specifically said this particular account would be allowed.
Right, so, but now I'm willing to grant, like, I'd be fine with doxing not being allowed, but I think the most important part is the intent part, right? So this Elon jet guy, this 20-year-old Jack Sweeney who tracks Elon's jet, I don't think he has any malicious intent, right? And like you pointed out, he just takes publicly available information and basically consolidates it and posts it.
Yeah.
Right?
That is my understanding. Is he was a big Elon stan actually, and thought it'd be interesting to see how he's like running his empire, and that was the genesis of the account. Right.
So now the people who got banned yesterday, obviously it was Elon Jet was one of them, and then it was Jack Sweeney's personal account, and then there were a lot of reporters who were banned. And for the reporters, I think what happened is they shared an article which was written by Matt Binder over at Mashable, and that article basically said, hey, I looked for a police report in LA to verify Elon Musk's claim that, hey, my jet was tracked and then people like, whatever, stalked my son or whatever and tried to attack him or some shit.
Right.
He claimed, there were safety concerns. There was this big issue. Okay. Well, there was no police report for that.
Right.
So he reported that. And it looks like everybody who shared that report got banned.
Didn't some of them just do their own reporting on the fact that he had banned Elon Jet?
That's possible too. I know that
like a Washington Post reporter got banned, a CNN reporter got banned.
Correct.
And my understanding, at least for the Washington Post, was that, you know, they had done their own article just detailing like, oh, he banned this account, et cetera, here's what happened. And that was what
so in other words
got him banned. That was my understanding.
So in other words, the fact that they shared the Elon jet thing in their reporting is the thing that got them banned. That's the argument you're making.
Even though that Elon jet thing that was in the article had already, like, the links were already dead, it's already all taken down. So, but yeah, I think that's his theoretical argument.
That's his theoretical argument. So basically anybody who shares anything.
Right. And then the other one that I think, I mean, these are all to me complete insanity, but, and, you know, we'll get to the sort of right-wing reaction, but obviously if the shoe was on the other foot and this was happening to right-wing accounts and right-wing journalists and whatever, they would be like totally melting down. It would be a day crusade for them, whatever. But the other piece is Mastodon, which is this Twitter rival that some people are leaving for. They posted like, we welcome Elon Jet or whatever. So their account gets suspended. But not only that, you can't even post any link to Mastodon at all on Twitter. I guess theoretically, because Mastodon hosts something that is banned on Twitter, they've just decided to ban the entire platform. And think of the insanity of that. Like, I mean, you know, there's all kinds of crazy lunatic stuff on like Gab and Parler and whatever. Nobody has ever taken the position that if there is one thing on some platform or news site that is against your terms of service, that whole platform is then banned and you can't link out to it. Like, that is really next level. That is beyond the insanity of even what was done with like the Hunter Biden laptop stuff.
Yeah, and then also there's like the IGD news people. It's Going Down News. They're an anti-fascist news outlet, and they were banned too. I have no idea if they shared anything involving Elon's jet.
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at this point, it's just hard to figure out exactly what led to, because there were so many bans for so many people, many of them high-profile journalists, that it's like, well, what exactly is leading to all these bans? So anyway, the reaction from some people on the right, to their credit, are like, no, don't do this. This is wrong. Like, oh, I understand your fear for your safety, but you like can't react the way that you're reacting. This is overkill. This is censorious, etc. But some people on the right have found this argument that they're clinging to. I'm about to explain what the argument is and why I think it's effectively bullshit. So some people say Elon had what's called a PIA, which is a privacy ICAO address. Okay? And the argument is, hey, for some private jets, you're granted this if there's like a safety risk. And so Elon was granted this. So the fact that, you know, the Jack Sweeney guy and Elon jets were tracking him means they were doing something that was actually illegal. That's the argument. Now, there's a bunch of problems with that. Number one, if that's true, okay, then Elon's going to sue. And he even said before, I'm going to sue over this. Okay, if he sues and he wins, then maybe there's an argument there. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. Hold on. Yeah. Because there was a 1979 Supreme Court case, and this basically laid the precedent which applies in this case. So let me read you a little bit about this case so everybody understands. It's Smith versus Daily Mail Publishing Company, again, 1979. And here's the principle that they went with. The news media cannot be punished for disseminating lawfully obtained truthful information. That's a direct quote from this case. Okay, so the flight logs are public. The claim that these people are making is actually they're not public because he has this PIA thing which hides it. Now, there's some counter reporting that says, no, he doesn't have a PIA thing.
Or at least he doesn't use it.
He doesn't use it. He does, or whatever. Yeah, he's not.
This is all easily, readily available.
It's easily available. It's easily trackable. It's easy to find his private jet information. So that's actually not true that he has the PIA thing. But I'm just gonna, for argument's sake, I'm just gonna say, let's say the right is correct and he does have this PIA thing. Here's why this is still bullshit. Even in a scenario where he has this thing which protects his information for his private flights, this kid would be the only one breaking the law. Because once he takes that information and then he turns around and gives it to, for argument's sake, The Intercept or The Washington Post or Mashable or New York Times or whatever, you can't criminalize and ban the journalists for doing their job. This is exactly akin to what happened with Julian Assange. Because the argument was, hey, Chelsea Manning illegally got this information and then passed it off to Julian Assange. But everybody at the time, even the Obama administration, which had a war on whistleblowers, even they realized, well, we can't go after Julian Assange because he's just reporting truthful information. And that's his job. That would criminalize journalism if we go after him for that. They did try to go after Chelsea, right? Because they said, oh, what you did was illegal because you took this private information. But you couldn't go after Julian Assange because you also have to go after the Washington Post, New York Times, etc. And the same thing applies here. Even granting their argument, you could say, okay, then the kid broke the law and you could go after the kid for what he did. But when that information gets to all the news outlets, you can't ban them for reporting factual information, even if it was aggregated in a way that effectively is illegal. But by the way, I'll go a step further here at the end and say, I don't think it's illegal at all. I think that the PIA argument is nonsense. I don't think he has a PIA thing. I don't even think it would survive, scrutiny in the court system. I think the whole concept might even be unconstitutional.
Well,
anyway, go on.
My view of what people were arguing was not that this was illegal, but that this was what made it constitute doxing, because it was information that he had tried to conceal from the public. And so, like, if you go back to your definition of doxing, then it's like something that you have attempted to conceal and then is shared with malicious intent. Their view of doxing was like, oh, well, if he tried to hide this information, then that would constitute doxing, and that would be a legitimate ban from the platform. I haven't seen people really saying it's like illegal to share the information, but that it would constitute doxing, which gets into a whole question of like, what is doxing actually? And I think people really overstretch and overuse this term. I also think it's different for high level public figures. There is sometimes a public interest in knowing their whereabouts. So like the President of the United States, for example, knowing where he is and who he's meeting with and whatever. But so let's even, like you were saying, let's take their argument for granted. The idea then that any journalist, which is just reporting on this whole series of events, should be banned for quote unquote doxing, and this other entire platform should be blocked and banned for even hosting someone who might host something that has been pushed off the platform. This is all insanity. And I mean, just to take it to a higher level view, the whole problem with Elon Musk or Jack Dorsey or Mark Zuckerberg or anyone else having effectively dictatorial, total and complete control over these platforms is it then becomes 100% subject to their individual personal whims. And how many decisions have we seen at this point that Elon Musk has personally made due to his own vibes and whims? I mean, everything from, of course, this scenario now, but even the Kanye swastika situation, which, listen, I'm not defending people who want to post swastikas. It's disgusting, it's deplorable. But the Supreme Court has also said that that is free speech. And his justification was, well, I felt incited to violence. So he had a personal reaction to it that leads to this decision, wildly inconsistent with other decisions that he's made, even his decision to not allow Alex Jones back in the platform. He had a personal justification. And then his concerns for his own, supposedly, this is his justification for his own safety, the safety of his family. Well, he doesn't prioritize the concerns for the safety of anyone else and their family. I mean, Yoel Roth, who I have lots of ideological issues with in the way that he ran the platform, he had to leave his house for fear for his safety. I don't see any concern out there about, like, you know, information that was shared that might incite violence towards Yoel Roth and lead to people going to his house or whatever he was fearful of. So this is the bottom line problem. You can't have a handful of oligarchs in control by their own personal whims. Speech is never going to be free when it has to meet the standards of whoever the current oligarch in charge ultimately is. And so, to me, in a sort of twisted way, I've sort of enjoyed all of this because it's been very revealing. It is revealing of, you know, there are a lot of liberals who've been saying, like, these platforms need to have more power. They need to be more censorious. And I do think, I hope, there's a little bit of a wake-up call here of like, oh.
There won't be. There will be no wake-up call for anybody, I guarantee you.
Maybe this doesn't always go the way that I thought it would, right? Maybe there's a little bit of an awareness of, hey, consolidating all this power in the hands of these few people, maybe this doesn't always work out so well. It's been total mask off for so many people on the right who 3 minutes ago were framing themselves as like free speech absolutists. And now we're like, oh my God, we must protect the private jet info of oligarchs at all costs. So you can see who has even a shred of a principle on that side and who is just totally shamelessly partisan, and all that they were really ever concerned about in terms of free speech was that their side had the power to censor and not someone that they ideologically disagreed with.
Even if I'm going to be as kind to Elon's position as humanly possible, I understand, like, just let's get in his mind for a second. Oh my God, this is doxing. Oh my God, I'm at risk, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. If that's the case, the furthest he could justify going is, yeah, I'm going to go after the Elon Jet account, right?
Yes.
That's the furthest you could justify going. Once you start going after the New York Times, the Washington Post, and you made a good point earlier, which is, oh, so if you're banning the entire Mastodon account because there was the Elon Jets thing on Mastodon, then you have to ban all of the Washington Post and all of the New York Times and all of the Intercept and all of Mashable,
right,
because of what they reported here. So again, even if I'm being as kind as possible, he would have went after just the Elon Jet account, but he didn't do that. He went after all these individual reporters. Ultimately, why do I think that is? Because it's political. This is effectively political. He knows who's been beating up on him, who's, reported critical things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my final point is, look, if you want to be this guy, if you want to be the censorious oligarch, then just don't make a whole fucking show about me, bro, I'm all about free speech, bro, I'm a free speech absolutist. Because at least I could respect it if there's just a genuine, disagreement up front of like, no, I actually believe in like really getting involved in micromanaging and filtering and censoring and deplatforming. If you
just on my terms,
old Twitter at least rep that to an extent, right? Like we're not claiming, nobody ever claimed we're free speech absolutists, right? With Elon, it's like, I'm a free speech absolutist, and he makes this bizarre, massive stretch of an argument where, again, even if I'm being kind to him, okay, the Elon Jet thing, debatable, but then you go after all the people who are just reporting factual information. That's absurd. That's absurd. And we do, again, I know you said there's a difference between the legality thing here versus just, is it doxing?
Yeah.
But to me, the conversation is one and the same because he's the one who said anything that's legal effectively, you can post.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I guess the last thing I'll say is Judd Legum actually wrote a piece a while back that was like, Elon Musk is no free speech absolutist. Just look at his record at his companies. He reportedly asked like Chinese censors to block criticism of Tesla.
That's right.
He went after employees who were trying to unionize. I mean, he has a consistent track record of being a little like thin-skinned authoritarian prick, basically. Right. So just the record here is very consistent with what his track record at his companies has also been. So those of us who were skeptical from the beginning that he was going to be any sort of ally of actual free speech, I think this whole episode definitely proves the point.
Indeed. All right, guys, we'll talk to you later.